He asks, what's the difference between race science and evolutionary psychology? Both seem to share the controversial biology affects psychology.
Okay, well, what you're calling race science, I would prefer you refer to as differential psychology, because differential psychology is the study of differences. This was the term given to the field by Hans Eysenck. And differential psychology concerns itself with the study of all human differences. So, this could be differences between sexes, differences between ethnic groups, differences between social classes, differences between individuals, and even differences within individuals throughout the individual's life course, so longitudinal or intra-individual differences. So, you have differential psychology, which concerns itself with the study of differences, and you have evolutionary psychology, which concerns itself with the study of what are known as human universals. So, evolutionary psychologists are interested in the ways in which everyone is the same. Specifically, they believe that the study of human universals gives us insights into understanding the factors that shape the adaptive aspects of the human mind. So they think that it's these primordial adaptations, which they call modules, which are evolved psychological mechanisms that all humans have in common. We all acquired this common repertoire of mental modules, which form part of our mental toolkit. And what caused the differences between humans in different parts of the world is merely the different environmental factors, like the presence of burdens of parasites or different ecological stresses and pressures, are eliciting or evoking different sets of adaptations in different parts of the world. So, more parasite stress makes you more xenophobic, more religious, more insular, and more prone towards consanguineous mating and polygamy. Because the argument is, all of these things serve as part of an adaptive behavioral immune system that protects groups from contact with other groups that might be harboring novel parasites, and allows you to concentrate genetic capital in terms of acquiring local adaptations to local diseases. So, it's like a small advantage to inbreeding when you're running these co-evolutionary arms races with these parasites. But evolutionary psychologists are having a very difficult problem trying to make these mechanisms plausible, because they're trying to explain cross-cultural variation using what is essentially a jukebox model. You can imagine a jukebox, and you push different buttons, and you play different records in the jukebox, and it's like the environment is pushing different buttons, but the records are already there. Those are the adaptations that everyone has in common. And they don't predict that these differences are genetic in the between group sense or innate. But there are these actual innate genetic differences between groups having to evolve to different environments. And part of the way they've protected themselves from this criticism is to say, well, adaptive human evolution likely ceased 60,000 years ago in the Pleistocene. And since then, all evolution has been cultural. And we now know that that's a very, very, very erroneous view, thanks to work of people like Hawkes and Harpending and even Gerhard Meisenberg, who was one of the first to point this out back in 2003, that if anything, selection pressures on the relevant axes of variation would have intensified over the last 30 to 10,000 years. Especially in the last 10,000 years, which should have caused a huge range of genetic differences to arise within human populations in that time period. And that is pretty much exactly what you see when you look at the archaeogenetic record and you look at the pattern of genes for various things across different populations. You see this clear evidence that these things are non-randomly generated. Which means, contrary to evolutionary psychology, selection is not just concerning itself with ways of making humans alike in terms of having the same mental toolkit. It's also concerning itself with adaptive specialization and radiation into micro-niches, an adaptation to local ecologies. And that's why the differential psychology perspective, when looked at with an evolutionary frame, gives us, I think, the best and most interesting hypotheses to go out and test about explaining the origins of this variation we see among individuals and among populations in the world today.